Hello everybody, my name is Meg and welcome to my channel. So this past year I hiked the Appalachian Trail from Maine to Georgia, and I have been getting asked a lot of questions lately that I feel could benefit from 2018 through hikers or future through hikers, because I mean, once a video is on the YouTube, it's pretty much timeless, right? So anyway, I want to address a couple questions that I've gotten, and I hope that they can benefit you. But if you have any other questions, I would love to hear from y'all in the comments below. You can also email me at meg.greenlee@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Instagram as ascension_adventures. I also have at Meg Greenlee, and then I've got a hiking account that's at Hike Your Hike. So follow me, shoot me a message. I would love to hear from you guys. But I'm going to address a couple questions. So first one comes from my friend Steve Baker, who I met in New York, and now we are friends, and I just love it. He lives in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I'm hoping to get out to hike the Uintas this year with him. So stay tuned for that, because that is going to be an incredible adventure. So he actually gave me two questions, and I'm going to, the first one I'll get to right now. It's, when you think back on the trail and reminisce about it, what section comes to your mind the most? That's a great question to start with, because it's an easy answer, and that is the White Mountains, hands freaking down. If I think AT, my mind immediately goes to those whites. And what was it about them? Everything. The courage that they made me summon, the beauty that they had, you know, like learning to kind of ebb and flow with the weather, learning when to summit mountains and when to slow down a little bit or to wait out a storm was really cool. And then I had like ridiculously cool weather on Mount Washington. Oh my goodness. That was my favorite day on the trail, actually, because we woke up at the base of Mount Madison, and it was foggy and a little bit drizzly, but the more that we hiked and then like boulder hopped up over Madison and came down to the hut, the clouds just started to break. And then when we got up like further and closer to Mount Washington, the clouds like opened up and the sun was shining, and it was kind of this just hallelujah moment. So hands down, the White Mountains, Mount Washington Day and Mount Madison stood out to me, and then Franconia Ridge, mind-blowing. I would go back there and hike that in a heartbeat. If anybody wants to hike it, you let me know, I'll be there. Okay, not right now, because it's probably like super cold and snowy and dangerous, but you know, when the weather's nice. And then second question, what was the most difficult state or section of the trail that you did? I've got to say, for me, it was probably Maine. As many of you know, I was originally going to do a northbound through hike. I found out that I had cancer and decided to flip my hike southbound. But I had just had surgery 10 weeks before I summited Mount Katahdin. Now, everything inside of me knew, like my heart knew, that I was bound to hike the Appalachian Trail regardless of that surgery, and if anything, it was the through line that pulled me through, and I'm very thankful for it. But I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified. That's the real Meg Greenlee coming out. I tried to go all puppy dogs and rainbows with it, but holy moly was I scared. And I remember like being on Mount Katahdin, just scrambling up these boulders and these like 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And I was just like standing on the side of this mountain like, what have I gotten myself into? And with that being said, that day was beautiful. It turned out beautiful. Nothing bad happened. It was a beautiful summit. And then the next day I headed off into the 100-mile wilderness. But that for me was the day that was just like, okay, this is really happening now. Like, this is happening. There were mosquitoes everywhere, and you know, I just was like figuring it out and figuring out the water and just kind of wrapping my head around the whole thing. And it took us like a month to get through Maine. Most of the Sobos, that's what it is. It's about a month to get through Maine. And you know, you're kicking rocks and you're kicking roots and you're questioning your life, but you keep going. but you keep going. And the coolest thing about hiking southbound is honestly, like, if you're not meant to cut out the trail, like if you're not cut out to hike the trail, you're not going to make it through the 100 miles. So as like good and as bad as that could be for certain people, it's kind of like once you're through there, you're like, okay, I've got this to a certain degree. But you're still hiking mountains every single day. You're still hiking mountains and you're still wrapping your head around things. And, you know, it's a really awesome learning experience, but that was definitely, I'd say, the most difficult state. Once we were in southern Maine, you know, it's funny because a bunch of Nobos coming up were telling us like how bad southern Maine was. But once we got to southern Maine, you know, it was just still beautiful and still just like everything else we hiked. And if anything else, we were more confident at that point because we were all starting to get our trail legs and stuff. But it took a month to get through Maine, where it takes most Nobos like probably only 2 weeks. So when you're hiking it and you got these Nobos coming at you, just like head down hiking, you know, it's a little bit discouraging, I suppose. That's Juno, by the way. That's my brother's dog. I'm crashing here at his house for the holidays. Anyway, that was the most difficult. Okay, so I also got some other questions, and thank you, Steve Baker. I love you so much, and I really hope I get to see you this year. But I also got a bunch of other questions from my brother-in-law's dad and stepmom the other day, Jim and Jeannie. They're the ones who bought me the B&B stay at Pheasant Field in Pennsylvania. 2-night stay, y'all. They were awesome about that, and it was such a lovely place. If you're in Carlisle, PA, stay at the Pheasant Field B&B. Awesome people. Awesome, awesome people. Anyway, I was hanging out with them just yesterday, and they asked me some really great questions that I also want to share with you. So the first question, the big one that Jeannie had was like about privies and how often I showered. So I'll let y'all know there's usually a privy at every single lean-to. Lean-to, shelter, whatever. Anyway, but they're pretty basic. You have to bring your own toilet paper. There's no hand sanitizer, that sort of thing. It's basically just a hole in the ground. Okay, there's a toilet seat, but other than that, it's a hole in the ground. And honestly, I typically prefer just to poop in the woods anyway. Full disclosure. In regards to showers, Jeannie asked me how often I showered, and I'll say it was about like once a week. But in regards, I'd say once or twice a week, honestly. But in regards to hygiene, what I did was I carried baby wipes with me, and I just wiped myself down most every single day. I just felt good that way. Sometimes people gave me shit or like laughed at me about it, and I was like, whatever. Like, I've got these baby wipes and I'm going to use them. I didn't like to use them to generate a lot of waste. So if there was a stream or a lake or a river, I would definitely take my camp towel and bathe myself off. But typically at the end of every day, I wiped myself down. Now that got like less and less as I went on, just because I got more comfortable in my own skin and my own, I wanted to use the word filth there, but I don't know. Like, I got comfortable in my own skin almost is what it was. And I realized that like my previous concept of dirty was not really dirty. So, yeah, I don't know. You just kind of get comfortable being out there and being sweaty and being dirty. In regards to like any personal hygiene or chick things, you know, I've kind of got like a super awesome situation because I had a radical hysterectomy, so I don't get a period anymore. So that was just something that was off the table for me to worry about. So I know that there are a bunch of other AT videos and trail videos in regards to hygiene that you want to check out. I know that Homemade Wanderlust has a really nice one after she hiked the AT about like hygiene and specifically women's hygiene. So if you want to check that out, go over there and check that out. Okay, so another question I got was like, what do you eat on the trail? Well, I mean, I have 2 different food videos that y'all can check out, but it pretty much changes from person to person. But the most important thing that I want you all to know is that don't stress out about it. Like, eating on the trail is ridiculously simple. You do not have to send yourself packages in advance. You can resupply anywhere. You can resupply as a vegetarian, and you can even resupply as a vegan. So just let that like not stress you out at all. How much did my pack weigh? At the beginning, it was probably 30 pounds, which was more than I had planned because I wanted to go like pretty mid-weight. But going into the 100 mile, I had a whole lot of food that weighed way more than I thought it was gonna. But then by the end of the trail, my pack sat around about 20 pounds. Base weight was about 14 pounds, honestly. I didn't carry a tent the entire time. And I mean, you know, I hiked with John, and he carried our tent. And then anytime that I was hiking by myself, I just decided to shelter hop, which was super cool. So it was just easy. And then the last question that I want to address for this video is, what was the most important thing that you learned? The most important thing that I learned on the Appalachian Trail was to not care what anybody thought of me. It's so easy to get caught up in like what everybody else's gear is, or what everybody else is doing, or where everybody's hiking, or how many miles you're doing. And you have to know that this hike is going to be your hike and nobody else's. It is your 2 feet and your heartbeat that's going to get you wherever you are going. And the sooner that you stop listening to like outside sources, just the happier you'll be and the less you'll judge yourself in your hike. Hike your own hike is the main point there. That's the most important thing that I learned. And there's still so much more wisdom that is still to be revealed through my Appalachian Trail journey for me. But most importantly, hike it for yourself and you'll get where you're going. So those are just a few questions right off the bat that I received in the past couple days. And there's more where that came from. So if y'all have any questions, please send them my way. I'll be putting out more videos in this regard, but I want to help any thru hiker like prep for their hike. So if you got questions, I'm your girl. But thanks y'all for your love and support, and I'll be checking in again with you real soon.